call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for Tuesday, November 15th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded territory of the Sim people who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Are there any late items that anybody would like to add to the agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Herring. We'll go with that. All those in favor? Does anybody wish to declare a conflict of interest on anything they know at this point? None. Moving on to item 6. There's TNRD director is not in attendance. We have no delegations tonight. We do have adoption of the minutes for the November 1st, 2022 regular council inaugural. There is a recommendation. What is the wish of council? Moved by Councillor Herring. Councillor Sim.
Question.
Go ahead.
So in looking over it and just reviewing it, there was a couple of things. Tourism Well's great. I'm wondering if maybe we need to look into our background. I think we actually need a representative on that, and only because of the MRDT. So I think we might have to take a peek at that. So I wondered if staff could do that.
Yep.
And then I had also wondered about if it was important to recognize the recruitment and retention, as well as to acknowledge the Community Economic Development Task Force, and even if it's to be dissolved, but I don't know how to reconcile that. So how that chapter fits into now.
Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
The Economic Development Task Force technically still exists until December 31st. The working group on recruitment and retention currently exists and will continue to exist in its form as before.
So supplemental to that is, do we need to have acknowledged that on the different structures?
Not for the working groups. We haven't or don't have a space to recognize working groups because they fall under a committee. The Economic Development Task Force, it will be up to council to decide if it continues or if it dies immediately or the future of it.
Yeah, and just because it's still in existence, do we need to just to have a representative to that and until that decision is made, because it is a carryover? Maybe we could look into it, like let's table it, but let's look into it. But it would be nice to be able at least to have some direction about what to do. Yeah.
Probably be the time we decide whether or not.
But certainly Tourism Well's great.
Okay, so we had a moved it. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councillor Fizzle. All those in favor? Thank you. This is a special council meeting held November 1st. Need a mover and a seconder on that one. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. Questions or comments? All in favor? That's adopted. It's a special council meeting held October 27th. Mover and a seconder. So moved, Councillor Herring, who was there for that. Seconded by somebody else that was here. Okay, discussion on that?
No, it's good.
Okay, all those in favor on that one? Now we're moving on to item 9.1. There are 2 sets of minutes for the Trails Task Force. Again, lots going on in there. Desire of council, would somebody like to move acceptance of those? You have a question,
I do. I just wanted to check because in reviewing them, there certainly had been discussion about next steps for some of those trails, and I didn't know if there was any anything that needed to be talked about at this meeting, or just accept the minutes.
Well, yeah, we're going to have a
okay
meeting, but I think it's probably good for the next meeting that we have 2 council members.
Oh, that would be great. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So moved. Did we have a seconder on them? Trails Task Force minutes? No. Seconded by Councillor Branch. Now on the agenda. All those in favor? So moving on to trails. We have the development and zoning under item 10.1. The intersection of the district's trails master plan, official community plan, and parks policy. We have a lot of these before a little bit before we go to the recommendation. Thomas, fire away.
To summarize the report, staff is looking for direction on the approach for subdivision files, particularly with respect to green spaces. There's a requirement when large properties are being subdivided for green spaces to be taken into consideration. The official community plan policy position is that the District of Clearwater receives cash in lieu of land. The Trails Master Plan has identified a network of trails within the community. And past practice has also indicated that the district typically would receive land instead of cash in lieu. So we're looking for direction because we have a number of subdivision files on the way right now. And in order to provide the preliminary layout report to those applicants, we need to know if the district wants to take the approach of cash in lieu or to take the approach of additional land donation.
So for further explanation on this, this goes back a long way to pre-improvement district time. So when you do a subdivision, there's the ability to either give a portion of land from that subdivision as you break up a larger lot to smaller lots, park line, or that person doing that subdivision would hand over equivalent to cash gift to the District of Clearwater for future development, and that's sort of part of the subdivision process. So this is standard all across. What is sort of different and what has to be decided here is, or should we just stick to taking cash in parkland? Because what's happened in Clearwater is we have quite a substantial number of parks out there. See them in the plans here that actually can't be used for parks, but they are this gifted land that was part of the subdivision process. Parkland in itself is great, but it comes with costs, and it comes with ongoing costs, including things like hazard tree assessment, cleanup projects. It has to be maintained under the district standards for basic park safety and things like that. So even though we've been gifted some of these things, and a perfect example is the gully off of Corner Drive, which really can never protected green space, but we still have to clean it up, manage it for hazard trees, and all the same things that we would. So that's sort of some of the logical conversations. Just saying, when we do future subdivisions. Any further comments or thoughts? Councilor Harry.
Yeah, I like option one on this of going intent to receive cash in lieu, just because we have so much parkland that's useless. And I think a lot of what's happening is people are kind of donating us the worst part of whatever property they're subdividing. And they're like, it's a park now. And so we get a bunch of rocks or a steep hillside or something that doesn't work for anything. It makes much more sense to take cash and maintain the park we already have, and then plan green spaces that are intentional and not built on the worst piece of land in a subdivision. But that's my take on it.
Further, Councillor Frizzle?
I agree. I find that knowing that we have a hole on Ogden Road that we consider a park, that is sort of, that it costs us money and it's a hole in the ground. I like the idea of having the cash in lieu, and then we can use that money towards other parks, trails, whatever, but something to work towards and know we can have the money for it.
And just on that point, Mr. Thomas, for clarification, if I'm remembering correctly, that the cash in lieu is it dedicated to a parks fund?
That's correct.
So it's not like it's going to go into general revenue. This cash that we take instead of taking land goes into a parks fund for the future development of the parklands that we already have, or future parks we wish to purchase. So Sam, go ahead.
And just to clarify, so if we've got areas that are being developed, so for example, we've had the proposed subdivision out along the pipeline for several years. But Diamond, Emerald Estates, Emerald Estates. So for me, is that would we look at targeting, funds back into that particular area? Because it would be a shame to sort of have some developed spaces without access to green space. So thoughtful park development as the community expands. I mean, not to say that we want it, but I mean, it seems that there's going to be a natural walking path there, but to invest it back in it. So, I mean, how do we look at the strategy, or is that what you're proposing, is that it's going to be dedicated into this new Trails Master Plan that's going to come forward?
I'll let Mr. Thomas talk to that.
It's hard to respond fully to that question at this point because I don't know what future decision council may make with respect to where parks are going to be identified. What I can say is there are several properties along the pipeline corridor that are impacted by whichever direction council decides today. The challenge is decisions already made or made in the past with respect to that particular section of water and decisions that are about to be made. Sometimes the property owners want to go in very different directions. And that presents a challenge for the district without clarity for what council wants us to do. So for example, one property owner may say, gladly give you a piece of land. Another property developer may say, we don't want to give you the land because we see more value in having it as part of the development. And instead, we like to give you cash. What we're looking for is a consistent way to respond to developers. Where park is going to go, I don't know. I think that would be part of a park strategy or a park master plan, which is something council has discussed previously, and I could see a future process to undertake.
So supplemental to that is that the recommendation is that council direct staff to rely on section 5.8B of the official community plan with the intent to receive cash in lieu of park dedication for the purpose of processing development files. So I just need some clarification on that if it's not going to necessarily be targeted. So what is it exactly what you're saying, is that we're just going to take a fee to process development files, or is it going to go back into parks?
So the fee to develop, the fee to process a subdivision file is already embedded in a different section. The money received through this method will be used exclusively for parks. What I'm saying is I don't know yet where council may want to dedicate that money and to which park it may want to dedicate that.
So I just read it the way you read it and went, okay, now I understood what you just said there, which makes it, in a sense, it sounds, if you can read it one way and say that you're taking cash in lieu of park dedication for the purpose of processing a file,
yeah,
versus in lieu of park dedication. So
we just need to change it because it does indicate that it's going to just be a fee that's going to go to processing files.
So dedication, so that.
Well, why do we have to say for the purpose of processing development files? Why not to receive cash in lieu of park dedication?
Yeah, period. It's actually probably the simplest thing, and just take that line out of there. The intent, I fully understanding the intent of the option or the recommendation is that we can move forward in a timely fashion with processing. So we'll just take that one out of there. But we haven't put a motion or anything.
No, we
on the
haven't.
table at this point. So, but that's a good suggestion before we get to the motion. Further discussion on this. Councillor Matheson.
How does the the trail system play into the park? Is it part of the same budget or is it separate from that?
I'll let Mr. Thomas talk to it, but there's a few different things there. But yes, in some of these instances, and specifically what has brought this to light is the fact that there could possibly be a trail system through this area. So it's there's still going to probably be an access through because the pipeline right away exists. That may be able to be captured by the trails without being part of the parks. They are somewhat independent of each other, even though the trails may connect to parks, but you don't necessarily have to have a park to have a trail. If that answers that.
Maybe we could just also just stop. Can you hear at the back? Because we've had yeah. Why don't you move forward? Because we just have not mastered this yet. So you should move forward because I can't move backwards.
And I already checked my mic.
Yeah,
And my mic is.
I
can turn
know,
all
I
the
know.
way
We've
up,
got
so-
to work on this.
Bring
And
that
that is
beard
going
on
to be a
up here.
council priority. Yeah. Okay.
And-
Anyway,
and,
if you can't hear, please come forward because it's just, we've got work to do. That's all I have to say. And everybody, please use your microphone. And the new rule of council is you have to pay $1 every time you don't. Okay, it's $2. That's the new rule.
Yeah, and good mic placement is essentially somewhere up here. If you
Yeah.
do this, you're gonna get pops. It's very low, so yeah, it's a bit of a problem, so I will do my best to get it close as possible and use it. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, does somebody want to move the recommendation? Sorry, what? Hold on.
There's a whole other section to this recommendation.
Yeah, the staff, yes, go ahead if you wish to read the rest of it.
Oh, well, no.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to edit on the second half of the
No, I
recommendation?
thought we should discuss it though.
Okay, no, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't read the recommendation out because I was hoping somebody wished to read it out.
Well, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, and that staff work with Trails Task Force to develop and present to council recommendations for a process by which the district updates the Trails Master Plan. Be it further resolved that the work to update the Trails Master Plan, among other content, specifically considers the number of proposed trails, types of trails, and current construction and long-term maintenance costs associated with the projects.
That is correct. Okay, discussion on that point. Councillor Sim.
So one of the things, and we've always said it for years and years and years, is the Trails Task Force truly is a force. And their vision for the community is just magnificent. However, there are costs attached to it. What I am concerned about this is that because of the vast amount of work and the number of trails, is that to go through it all is going to be extremely labor intensive. And I'm wondering if there's a staging for like priorities, 1, 2, and 3, and we attach it to how the Trails Task Force said this would be the next stage.
My understanding is they've actually already started this. Go ahead.
In the Trails Master Plan itself, there is a current prioritization.
It also ties into the fact that we view of the
Well,
there's aspects of the trail exceeds what the
so I guess my question is because the Trails Master Plan is fairly new, is there need to do that given their priority ranking?
My understanding is that there is.
Okay.
It's not so much about the priority ranking. It's more about some of the aspects of the original Trails Master Plan being different than the OCP. There's aspects in there, especially about crossing private lots, where trails are drawn on
Right.
private lots that have been quite upsetting to some of the landowners in the past. So there is a need to look at the Trails Master Plan. Is there a need to do a complete tear down and rebuild of it? I don't think so at this point, but it will probably have to happen. Aspects of it will have to change before we can go to the OCP process of it doesn't align. It's a higher document than the trail. Anything further on that, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, on page 33 of the Trails Master Plan document itself, for example, it includes a prioritization table and an estimated construction cost. And the estimated construction costs are very different from reality today. And for those reasons, because this plan is a demonstration of council's commitment to work in it, I think it's also important to communicate to the public when they're reading this that the estimated costs are not what's reflected.
So it's not so much of a tear down, but a refresh. but also pull some things out there that should. Councillor Herring.
So I think because the last grant cycle was pretty heavy on active transportation, they were able to hugely perform
Mhm.
for a few years, but I think that landscape is going to be changing. And this might be a good chunk of work to put right back to the committee and let them kind of bring us a new version of this document rather than pouring a ton of council effort into the making of it. I kind of lean towards let them as the experts in our local trail system do it and then come to us to make that final assent. Do we agree? I just feel like this group of people, when I was doing the meetings with the Trails Task Force, I was like, okay, these are people who are really good at this. Let's let them shine, and then we can kind of build off what they have.
So I'd like to move the two recommendations with a modification. The first recommendation that council directs staff to rely on section 5.8B of the official community plan with the intent to receive cash in lieu of park dedication, period, full stop. That staff work the Trails Task Force to develop and present to council recommendations for processes by which the district updates the trail master plan, period, full stop.
I'll second that.
Start. Okay, you're good with that. Okay, second that. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? That. Unfinished business. We have 11.1, which is reconsideration of tabled items. Under that section, we do have a few items. Notice on the further or the but the list is before you on page 1. Agenda package. There are 4 or 5 items. Anything that council wishes to discuss, I'll give you a half second to go through that again. Some of these things like 37 East Park project, we've already deferred and the sort of agreement at our last council. That's the old chuck wagon property to hold that off until we're into winter now, but it could easily be part of planning for next year. Some of the other ones as well. Sites had a lot of staff turnover, but that would be something that council see as an immediate priority. I can't wait for a month or 2 until planning. Were there any staff field need to be done? I think there's a few that we need to have discussions with
For sure.
the people. Anyways, yeah, and then there's other bits like proposal in principal sewer services. We've had that conversation. Discussion. Expansion and that sort of thing. So I don't necessarily know if that's something we need to push right now at the council table. Anything further on any of that? We'll just pass that on again. We don't have to do a motion or anything for that. There was a chart, but nothing in deferred items, if I'm correct there, Mr. Thomas. Okay, yeah, good to go. And then there's the item of the select committee for cemetery operations. The recommendation is here as Councillor Bamford was asked to continue on this committee because he started the work as a councillor. I believe we've also appointed somebody from council to sit on there for the. But this is a recommendation that we put Councillor Bamford on there.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you, Councillor Sims. Seconded by Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor? And we'll thank Councillor Bamford for continuing to do that. Public or statutory hearings, and that committee has a limited time. We don't have any public or statutory hearings. Mayor's report. Last week was the TNRD regional orientation where many of us attended with all the newly elected people from other parts of the district. Attended Remembrance Day, did a couple of different agenda settings. Did some advocacy calls for the seniors home with TELUS, which was hopefully we made some progress there. Yeah, and then a lot of conversations. A lot of people want to talk about the BCM meetings here. A day or two coming up. Been appointed to the health and wellness committee after social issues as well as healthcare issues. Environmental committee, which is wide-ranging as well. Have a meeting on Thursday afternoon with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. And for council reports, I'm going to start in reverse order. Councillor Sim, you are up first.
Oh my gracious. First of all, I just want to acknowledge with the Sympcwemc for Chief George Lampro, and I'm wondering if we could send a congratulations card if it hasn't already been done. The same thing with our new Area A Director, if to send a note of congratulations on behalf of council.
I think I have some cards in my finger. Do that?
Yeah, just to add to the batch, which is nice. I was sorry that the inauguration for Sim took place so quickly. They were very generous in coming to our inauguration, but under the circumstances, it was great.
I didn't know we did get an invitation to attend a Sim event in Kamloops.
Yes,
this coming-
just not their inauguration.
just their
You know, they were fast,
They
but
also
they've
forgot
got stuff to
Lyle on the
do.
letter, so-
I seen that, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wrote you in. Yeah.
Yeah, just an acknowledgement that the hockey tournaments have started in Clearwater, which is terrific. Coffee houses galore. It is such a refreshing way to go into winter. Is the fact that life is social, which is really great. The ski hill's got a dance coming up in November. They're having one in December. Their Christmas market is on the 2nd. And then probably one of the important things coming up is the local health planning table, and that's coming up December 7th. And that's a great opportunity to kind of meet some of the new players from Interior Health, move forward on some objectives. We have invited SD 73 to come to the table to talk about doing some local training for the carried courses, and that's had some endorsement from the CSS parents, which is great. So lots happening there. So I will leave it at that. I'm sure you will talk about Remembrance Day and all those good things and all the things. And also just a shout out to staff and certainly the Piper for inauguration. The Piper was really a beautiful attribute and certainly the social afterwards. So thank you very much for what you contributed.
Thank you. Good. Yes. Moving on to Councillor Matheson, you're up.
Is that working? Good. Okay, so in the last couple of weeks, I've joined into the climate caucus for the government agencies, and I've got my first webinar tomorrow, actually. I emceed the Raft River School outdoor education program, and that evening auction they had raised just shy of $10,000.
That's not great.
And also in addition to that, a $5,000 personal donation. So that one night brought in $15,000 for them. Also represented the Senior Society at the Remembrance Day Parade, and I've been asked to MC the Food Bank Christmas concert in December. So that's a wrap.
That's a good one. Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Also, I attended on November 4th at TNRD orientation in Kamloops. Numerous other municipalities from around the region. November 14th, attended our own council transition orientation. And I just wanted to thank staff for all their hard work involved in putting those workshops together. It's not an easy task, and you see the folders and you know why. So thank you for that. Just a few other things to touch up on group-wise. U50 Ice Hawks, first place this weekend at Sportsplex. As a product of minor hockey here. He took who registered. He didn't have cuts. There was no tryouts. He took anyone that signed up. So I always get warm and fuzzy when a small town team like Clearwater knocks the boots off of the big city centers. So that happened this weekend. So happy for that. What else we got? Yeah, also the Raft River Pack for their silent auction. I heard rumors around the 9K mark, but 15, that sounds even better. So once again, great local support for a great project. Another one too, another local here, Ali Boros this week was named Canada West Women's Hockey Player of the Week. So that's a pretty cool accomplishment for someone to see grow up and, you know, another local pursuing a career there. One other thing, take note with holidays fast approaching and a more welcoming atmosphere this year that everyone wanted to see for the holidays. As it was noted before, the Ski Hill, November 26th, they have Peter and the Wolves coming in, and I think everyone should go grab a ticket for $20 from the Wildflower and go check that out. Saturday the 26th. And just one other thing, with Remembrance Day a few days behind us, I was talking to a few veterans, one who I've had the pleasure of working with up until his retirement, and he expressed their dire need for volunteers. And I never really thought about ones that have passed on and just how their numbers are really starting to slim out there. So I got to start going down, giving them a hand with some things when I can, as it fits with my schedule. But if anyone knows anyone looking to volunteer or looking for another hobby, want to help out, it's another good one. On that note too, or I should say, we were talking about a live stream for the Remembrance Day ceremony didn't happen. And I know it was more of a COVID measure, but I'm wondering if we can make a point of doing that every year now. Just as veterans are aging, family members aging, they cannot make it down to Small Park for things like that. So I'm just wondering if we could maybe make a point to live stream every Remembrance Day ceremony that we have, if possible. And I think that wraps up my couple weeks.
Can I?
Go ahead, Councilor.
So I'm gonna just tally onto that is that does tie in, and I overlooked it because in 4 years I've never been first, so that took me off guard. I just wondered if we could ask at some point during this meeting is just an update from staff on the volunteer appreciation on December 3rd, because it sounds like, you know, the Legion would be quite right for that. I've seen it advertised that there's an event on the 3rd, but there hasn't been an update of what that looks like. And there hasn't been any advertising for who would attend something like that. But you know, a couple of volunteer groups that I've been with, and they've said, yep, they're super keen on it. So maybe even just an email update would be terrific. And then just to follow up, because I think that the U15 win would have been even more exciting if our sound system had been working at the arena. Mr. Mayor. Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm not touching either one of those, but since the first one wasn't on the agenda, an email update is appropriate. And the second one,
He's
Mr.
got
Mayor-
written down.
Mr. Mayor already probably feels that it's that he's working on that one. I'm quite sure. Things happen. They happen a lot. But anyways, thank you. We actually are on to Councilor Herring right now. Fire away.
So last couple weeks was just, yeah, the orientation we had yesterday. It was great. Good to get a sense of where we're at with infrastructure and sort of our big picture planning stuff. It's going to be a good 4 years, but it's going to be a long 4 years, I think. As well, went to the Remembrance Day ceremony. I was really floored by the moment they took time to remember those who've died in service this year. This was a rough year for the police in Canada, particularly the RCMP, and that was a pretty somber, sobering moment, realizing that this year has been a hard one across the country for many people. And then at the gear swap for the ski hill this weekend, it was great. Lots of new faces with young kids, which is super exciting as always. So hopefully we get enough snow to actually open the hill this year. That would be awesome. Yeah. So far to be a bumpy ride up, I think, but but hopefully we'll get there. And yeah, it sounds like November 26th is going to be a big day with the Peter and the Wolves show. But before that, Clearwater Pride is actually having their coffee house at the Elks Hall as well. So you can get some live music at the coffee house and then come see a live show at the ski hill. It's going to be
Is that
a
the
big
same
day, same day.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
I also attended the TNRD Council Orientation in Kamloops, which was very interesting and got lots of information from that. Attended the Remembrance Day services and actually lent out some tents to the Legion in case it did snow. And he came back and delivered them to me. And we had the same discussion about he's the youngest member there and he's 71 years old. And they're getting tired and they're getting a little frustrated because nobody's coming up. So I think that there really needs to be that volunteer drive to get people out to help these guys that have been helping everyone for so long. So I wouldn't have even mentioned that. So I'm glad you did. So I also attended, I won't say that one. I had a dementia workshop, Alzheimer's dementia workshop here a couple of weeks ago. It was very well attended. I had a lot of people walk out with a little shell shocked about where they're at and where they're going to be, but they learned a lot and they understand their people more. I did have one person go in and he was angry at his wife because she just wouldn't do what he wanted her to do. And when he left that, he understood why. And so that these workshops are so important that we scheduled one on the spot for April so that we can continue the conversation and continue the learning and the training, because we're all going to be hit with it somehow or other, somewhere in our families, with ourselves, whatever, with friends. It's important to understand what people are going through and how to help them through it and make their quality of life a very positive one. The seniors luncheon this month, I had the fire department come, and it was very exciting to have them come and talk and then watch first the Clearwater Fire Department get called out and then the Blackpool Fire Department get called out, and how they just respond so quickly and efficiently, and they're just gone and they're doing their job. It was really quite impressive to watch, really. It's amazing. I also attended the orientation yesterday here, and it was really good to hear about our infrastructure and what we need to learn and what we need to know and what we need to do. And it was scary. Also attended the November 9th agenda setting. And then on November 8th, I did attend my first Trails Task Force meeting. I just went to sit and listen and learn because I haven't been to a meeting before. I hear lots about them and they are very dynamic. We all know that. And sitting in the meeting, listening to what they've done, what they want to do, it was really exciting. I had all the minutes sent to me, so I'm going to be going through those so I can go back and see where they're at. But it's going to be an exciting task force to be on. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brack.
There. Hello. Geez.
You're so bring it forward.
I have one of those voices anyways. So I've been not a whole bunch, or I didn't think I did till I started listening to everybody else and they were reminding me all the different things we've been invited to. So the TNRD meeting, that was really cool. There was a very energetic lady there that we got to listen to, and a little firecracker, yeah, Christine, and totally pumped us up because the first part was all lawyer stuff and that just about made us fall asleep. So this was fantastic. The amount of learning that we're getting is amazing. And yeah, thanks to the staff that are providing all this information to us, because yeah, my brain's about to explode. I did an agenda setting as well, one-on-one with John, and very informative things that I didn't know, that information that we have to receive didn't know. So it's very good. The orientation, and there was a bingo. We forgot about the bingo. And I also attended the Remembrance Day ceremony. Very well attended, and yeah, definitely with the RCMP, definitely makes you reflect. I had one other thing, shoot. Anyways, I am on 2 different task force, Parks and Rec and the cemetery. I need to attend the dementia.
It'll start to sink
yeah.
in.
I haven't gone any farther than being assigned to those, so we're going to learn much in the next few weeks.
Well, as Councillor Matheson stated earlier, that it's like drinking from a fire hose. I put that out somewhere else, and the head of the TNRD, CEO of the TNRD, said should send me a picture because he saw that. He actually has that in his presentations, a picture of somebody drinking from a fire hose for the next TNRD orientation. One thing I did forget to mention is I believe it's this Friday, Mr. Thomas, there is the community wildfire meeting. Is that correct? That is correct. Yeah, I usually attend that. So if another councillor wishes to attend that community wildfire roundtable, it's a really good learning experience. You would? Okay, so maybe we can pass those details on to Councillor Matheson. And if you're available, you want to attend to it, more the merrier. I think it's a great learning experience to see what the wildfire threat and to meet all the people that are part of the round. It's a round table basically discussion and understand all the moving pieces for that threat. So it overlaps a little bit because the same people deal with flood issues and things like that. And get to listen to Simpson, speaker, and incredibly knowledgeable. Moving on to the CAO report. The package, page 124. If Mr. Thomas wishes to speak to anything on there, that's fine. If you have any questions of Mr. Thomas on anything in the report, follow up with him later. Move on to the next item, which is 16.1 under new business staff reports. There is a general report on the general election. Any questions of staff on that? Comments? Good job from staff on running the election. And
No, I just appreciated some of the observations. I'm not keen on the automated ballot. I got to tell you, I've got too much of a US hangover on that one, so I really want to stay clear. But I really like the idea of having more ballot dates. I thought that was, I think a lot of people would appreciate that. Having the 2, the weekend, it's tricky in the fall, and maybe one more. So I like that observation about how to manage that. So I really, and I also appreciated the comments about the compensation and how that allowed us to attract some good people, and just being able to take in new voters, and the process and procedure seemed to go really smoothly. And despite some lineups, it was facilitated quite quickly. And it was nice to see that the early voting day was well attended. And I think that might give an indication about having another date in there. I strongly favor that. Just noting the numbers of each day just seemed like it was a good idea. So thank you very much.
there was also comments from around the TNRD. So that's been passed on. And another thing, as I think Councillor Matheson noted before the start of the meeting, second highest voter turnout by percentage for Clearwater.
I wouldn't go so exceptional when it's still,
It's
below
50,
55%. I just,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
room, there's room for growth.
improvement. Yes. True enough. The next one is item 16.2, which I'm sure here. Extension of the strategic plan for 1 year. Staff wish to comment anything before we get to council comments?
The report is basically recommending adjusting a few items in the current strategic plan, keep it in place for 1 year as the government transitions and finds legs, finds its new direction in order to develop the new strategic plan. And additionally, actually a significant component of the proposed budgets that will be coming forward will be continuation of projects, completion of projects started under the current strategic plan.
You do. Will we still have a strategic planning meeting just to discuss a little bit of things we need to and go over it,
Current strategic plan or the new one?
the current one?
We could certainly schedule a workshop to look at the current strategic plan, see what council wishes to change.
So hearing,
I think my take on this is out of our last discussion, right? Where we're looking at trying to leave some room so that there's overlap every time with these strategic plans so that a new council has time to actually go through the process of strategic planning. Because I think this year's budget process and our strategic planning altogether is going to lead to a better product than trying to rush one out in the first 6 months of this term, right? So I think this is a good idea, but I do think, yeah, it's really important, obviously, that we continue to work and reassess if there are things on the project list that don't make sense. From what I saw, I mean, this is mostly wrapping up.
Councillor Sim, I see you ready.
Yeah, I really like our strategic plan. My problem is, and I watched it again before tonight's meeting, is we all stood up and we had a vision for the community, and we said that what we would do, and we said what we would listen to. So for me, I would really like to have a strategic planning session in the next few months, because I think it's important as a new council is that we articulate not only our own ambitions, but what we heard from the public during the election cycle. And I think that that's really valuable. Overall, we've got good bones, so I don't think it has to be an arduous, but I think that there is room there to certainly fine tune. I also want to just bring up, and it's coming up later in the agenda, on August 16th, we made a motion that staff will prepare a community survey on a 3-year rotating basis. And that was to be able to get some input in the community. COVID saw new people come to us. It saw new positions. It saw new opinions. And I really want to hear from our community, and I want to hear from the community on what their priorities are. And in our efforts to rebuild the community culture of love where you live, I think it's important that we have that strategic planning. And I think it's important that we send out the community survey that we've done for the past 4 years, once every 2 years. I have copies of it if anybody's interested. It's super easy stuff. But let's do a pulse check. Let's check in. Who's still here? Who still is wanting, similar visions? And that's why I strongly favor working together as a new team to, address the existing strategic plan, but give it another look.
Councillor
Matheson.
You can take me a couple.
Yeah, I agree with that Councillor Sim says. For me, to absorb it, it's going to take 6 or 8 months, and I'd like time to look at it first and kind of live with it a bit, and then revisit. And like you say, checking with the pulse to see. I think it starts the planning process in your head again a little bit, and I think it'll come up with a stronger document at the end of it all when we do it in 2023.
And just to clarify, my understanding of this is just so that the current plan remains as a placeholder. It doesn't stop the work from happening. We have to get to work on the next strategic plan immediately, I think. My understanding from this is we need to make sure that the projects from last time stay in place, the ship keeps sailing while we drop the new navigation route, so to speak.
Further to that,
I'm really ready.
yeah, I know. Yeah, further to that, we're in the process of trying to do a couple of organizational things at the same time here. Critical is getting budget underway. Like Council Matheson has said, a few months to get budget properly underway, the budgeting financial year and planning. And then we need to do this as a group. And most people do this as a group. We do put a bunch of post-its on the wall. We have a brainstorming session. Developing it into a new formal plan may take a little bit longer, but
And to that end, that's why I really favor option number 2, that council directs staff to prepare the strategic planning process for early next year. That ties into our budget process, which we'll be discussing in another item about that we've got some community engagement. That can take the form of a community survey, which could be incorporated into the planning in early next year. I also really like the idea that Councillor Herring was putting forward is that when you have a strategic plan that ends with the term of council, that's tricky for exactly the reasons that Councillor Matheson said. And perhaps staff could maybe guide this this next direction is it feasible that we create a strategic plan that actually carries into 2026? So that when the new council comes, they're actually operating off the strategic plan. They have a year to get accustomed and then they create their own. So is there anything that's legislated that we, have to follow a particular structure?
Not to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any legislation that says the strategic plan has to. It's a corporate governance decision. Additionally, when in the last term of council, the election occurred in 2018, if I remember this correctly, the new strategic plan. And so instead of doing it over 3 years left, if it's done in the following election, certainly do it over 5 years, but consistently over 1 year.
And that's exactly what I would favor is having that long-term vision. It ties into a 5-year financial plan. Like there's lots of way to sew this together so it becomes a very neat tapestry. But I do believe that the work has to begin in the new early in the new season. I think we've got enough bones. There's enough projects that are left unfulfilled thanks to COVID, that nobody's going to be bored. We can get some input from the community exactly on the financial report we're going to hear. And then we have our strategic planning early in the 2023. That would be my favor. So if there's no other discussion, I'd be happy to move that motion, but I'll wait to hear from my colleagues.
I do have questions to staff.
Option 2.
Question to staff. Do we have? Option 1 is a little bit big. Still move option 1 and it starting the new process. Go ahead.
We can certainly, we already have budgeted in 2022, recognizing the election was happening. So that budgeted amount is about that. And certainly, and we have actually reached out to 2 consultants already about that. Having that overlap was important, so this is why we're presenting. That being said, council can do 2 things: have an interim plan, which is the current plan updated for a period of 6 months or so. That plan should be guiding council in its decision on budgets and everything. Without a strategic plan, it's really following direction, motion dimension. Secondary to that, the planning process can certainly begin now. District finding a number of consultants, presenting those options to council along with their ideas, council deciding which one aligns best. Council sense of direction. We go back, sign a contract, and then as soon as council schedule. Considering we're going into December, holidays.
Yeah, and again, I just see this really lining up with what we're going to talk about next. which is there's going to be public consultation around the budget, which, is then sets priorities. I mean, there's no sense in having public consultation if you're not going to actually listen to it and incorporate it into your budget. That seems a bit crazy. So to me, there's lots of symmetry. So, and I don't see the rush in having to extend the current strategic plan because it still is working. If staff feels that that's important, then I will amend it to something like the council directs staff to prepare the strategic planning process for early next year to take place with internal staffing only in conjunction with financial planning, recognizing the strategic plan dated for 2022 would be extended until the new one is done. Something like that. But
You need a set date on it?
Nope, we don't need a set date on it. I just want to highlight for council, internal staffing only means we're not getting a consultant.
So we don't take that out of there? 'Cause I think we should-
well, I thought the internal staff actually was the contribution of the budget process. That's how I read it. So the internal staff was that they would be a part of the strategic planning. That's how I read it. Obviously, I've misunderstood that.
I think, folks
Do you see what I mean? Next year
So-
to take place with internal staff only.
prepare the strategic planning process, but necessarily still bring consultants. I think it's a bit of a-
I don't mind tabling it because again, I don't think we should be talking anything until we finish the financial plan discussion.
So do I. So maybe we just table this. We still have time to extend the current,
Totally.
does everybody agree with tabling that for now? Agree with that?
I move to table the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Seconder and
Seconder, all those in favor? Good. Okay, bring that. Then we move on to item 17.1, consideration of the intercommunity business license bylaw. And this is because we had a date error that we need to bring back reading 3. Is that correct, Mr. Collins?
It's because in the discussion that took place, council agreed with the recommendation of staff that an immediate adoption will mean an immediate effect of the bylaw. And so council had agreed with staff to have the adoption take effect on January 1st. However, without explicitly including that language in the bylaw, we can't do it. So we're bringing it back for reconsideration to add that section, then form third reading and await over adoption after that.
Okay, so that's sort of an explanation of what's out there. So their first recommendation, does somebody wish to move this?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder on that? And does everybody understand this? Okay, so we're just basically going back on third reading. And next, all those in favor of that? Okay, and then this recommendation amends basically the language. That one.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor McKenzie. Councilor Frizzle. The recommendation, I'm just going to business license bylaw number 7. Words as section 9.1. This bylaw comes into force all those in favor. And then next recommendation is District of Clearwater, whereas council may pursuant to section 8.6 of the charter regulate in relation to business, and whereas pursuant to section 14 of the community charter, 2 or more municipalities may by bylaw adopted by the council of each participating government establish an inter-community scheme on 1 or more matters, and whereas pursuant to section 5.1 of the community charter, council may provide terms and conditions that may be imposed by obtaining, continuing, or renewing a license, permit, or approval, and specific the nature of terms, conditions, and who may impose them. Now therefore, the council of the district in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited. Committee of the whole. There is a motion. By recommendation to the council enter a committee of the whole meeting of the Government Operations Committee. Moved by, seconded by. Chair over. Who am I turning the chair over to?
To me.
To Councilor Frizzle. Thank you. I turn the chair over to Councilor Frizzle.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. So we're moving on to 18.2, financial update for September 30th, and I'll ask Ms. Clausen to do a report.
Is that better? So the financial update has a few objectives. First of all, it's to provide an overall financial bylaw and also it provides the actuals as they're aligned with. It encourages accountability of staff. It provides financial transparency. And it reduces occurrences of unexpected. So in the report, you have Schedule A and so the top portion of Schedule A, circle there, is the financial plan. It's for 12 months, where the year-to-date actual is up to September 30th, so it's 9 months. So there's always going to be a variance. However, a percentage of budget, so this is the revenue side, so that's money coming in, should be about 75% if all our cash flowing in is equal. However, that is not the case for the district. So the property taxation typically comes all into in May, when we send out, recognize the revenue in May as we send out invoices. And this year, as of today, have about 97% of all taxes fallen. 3% we still collect, working on it. And something to note is that the district of Clearwater did not have tax sale this year, which means it's delinquent. There is no delinquent taxes. So our staff work really hard to collect all the taxes. And another item to note is that government transfers to and from reserves and transfers to and from surplus is typically a year-end activity. You match the project with the funding coming in for those projects at year-end because you don't know what the total cost of the project is. But the bracketed line items that you see there. The arrow item there is a sales and service, and it includes a lot of collection, but you notice that it is well above the budget. So we've collected more than the budget in that area. And basically that is the septic receiving revenue for the district of Clearwater is well above what we anticipated. The budget is $750,000. Currently, we're about $1.4 million collected. So I anticipate that we'll be closer. If it's the same, it's, you know, about 1.9, so we'll have a surplus there. I will also mention that all surpluses in the septic receiving area, according to our reserve policy, go back. Sure. The way the The second slide is focusing on the expenditure side, so that's all the money. It's on the same page in your report, however, in the slides, it's the second half. And yeah. So if all things were equal, we would have expected our rate to be about 75%, and you see that a lot of them are lower than 75%. That means either spent all the money for our projects or we're running out of budget. Coming to the end of the year, there will be a review and a cutoff at the end of the year. All projects and all the status of those projects and the status. And finally, on the reports, you have the detailed listing of the reports. We have about 40 projects, and that's a little bit more than we had when we started because one of the projects was a trail. We split in two. A portion of that trail has not been delivered. And we added a so there's about 14 of those projects that will be carried forward. 7 are complete, 4 we canceled, and 10 are on schedule to complete right now, and 4 at risk and 1 at risk. Total spending on all our projects is about $1.4 million to a budget of $4 million. And the recommendation is for council to receive the quarterly report ended September 30th.
Someone like to move that?
How about questions?
You want questions first? Okay,
Anybody have questions?
go ahead.
Thanks very much. I think it was quite a comprehensive report. The only one that's really kind of a red flag for me is our 17% expenditure on the economic development. I think a lot of that funding in there is a grant, and that grant is, I think it's to be complete this March.
So included in that project is, or included in there is
Do we get to carry that money over if it's not complete? Okay. And that's the majority of why we're at 17%, but we're on track for the other
well,
economic development grant that we had received? Okay. And that's just and I don't think it can be answered now, so I would ask for a report back.
the economic development officer started.
No, I understand that, but I don't know if the provincial government's forgiving on that. I don't know where they stand. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Mayor Blackwell?
Yeah, just one, because finally why the Símpcwemc is that because we're at the end
Because of a change in approach to how we manage the toolkits, and this was an oversight that should have been removed from the line past year. So every year in the past, the district would purchase a toolkit and replace it on an annual basis. This time, instead of replacing it, we decided to keep the toolkit until and manage it like any other asset in our fleet. And when we require replacement, we'll replace it at that.
It was my favorite motion. But we had data to support it. That was the difference. Yeah.
Any other questions? Would someone like to move the recommendation? Okay, seconder. Councillor Bratton. Any further questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to 18.3, the financial plan, public engagement plan. Ms. Clausen, up to you.
Thank you. So, more of a rather than just for the objective is to gain council has the information to make those decisions. Public engagement is a requirement of legislation, but it doesn't tell you how to do it or how rigorous to do it. And we're suggesting perhaps a little bit more rigorous of a public. The assumption that we're going forward here is that the strategic plan is delayed for 1 year. However, I think we can move forward whatever comes. And the cycle of this plan right now is about, I'm thinking it's about 18 to 24 months. Now, the circle that you have in the middle of that slide talks about planning, talks about doing, and then giving it a check, and then acting on it and going forward. So this is a communication, public engagement plan where we check in to see if it's working and seeing if we're getting the input we require to make the decision, or for council to make the decision. So on the first phase, the goal for the first phase was to effectively inform the public about the process, about how do we budget? What does it mean to have a business case? What does it mean to, what do the terms mean that we use? We know what the rules mean, what the project means, so we know what project means. What does the property tax setting process? How do we go through that process? So just providing knowledge and informing. Methods that we were brainstorming about could include did you know type fact sheets, question and answer, improving our website information. Often we have to click a few times to get right into the details into the website. And information about local government services. What kind of services do we provide? Do we, people make sure that we understand that we may not be responsible for gas prices, for example. So there might be some people thinking that we're responsible for gas prices. We're not. So it's just ensuring that our citizens understand what we do. And also, we're thinking of having 2 public meetings, one in December and one in February. And this phase 1 would primarily be for the 2023 budget process. Phase 2 is for consultation, transparency, planning, and more for the strategic plan process for council. In this one, we're looking at providing a long-term financial planning foundation, effectively consulting the public through a variety of tools such as surveys, YouTube, videos, improved website again, and conversation opportunities. Conversation opportunities could perhaps be, or an example is coffee house or coffee with council or something like that, or a table somewhere that has an opportunity to have a conversation. And our goal is also to be transparent and to make the information available to council, whatever information we collect available to council. And this, I'm anticipating it to occur between March and August, when council, it's to reflect the strategic planning process. So that is where we're strategic planning funds. And finally, phase 3 is consultation, transparency, and planning. That's our goal. And it's more to do with the long-term financial plan. we'll be using a variety of tools, learning from what we did in phase 1 and phase 2 and what worked and what attracted people's attention and input. Again, we'll be transparent and make all the information collected to council and consider it as we build the long-term plan. We may even consider some software options if it's built. So I am recommending on the slide option 1, but I think in your package it's on the slide it's option 2, but in your package option 1. We went back and forth as staff whether or not we only ask for approval for option 1, or do we ask for approval for all 3 phases? So up to council to.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Sim?
Yeah, so I think it all sounds good, and I really like the fact that we, the accountability piece to the public. I like the long-term, planning. I think that's part of the adulting that we're all super keen on, and that financial picture. I think that there's a good lens on that. I just want to draw back to our discussions back in August about that 3-year rotating basis on that community survey, and I think you alluded to it, but I wondered where you saw that and when. Yeah, so the survey there. So I didn't know when that fit for you.
Between March and August 2020.
Would you see that as part of the December engagement, just to kickstart things and just building off what we did in 2019 and 2021?
So the reason I was thinking about providing knowledge and information for the budget cycle is because we're learning about the budget, and we're doing many of the same projects, and we're going forward with it. The survey, it may be useful, it may not. You may not get the results if people don't understand, if people aren't engaged. So the phase 1 for this plan is to engage, to consult, to learn from each other. The phase 2 is to, okay, so what do you think? So that was the thinking behind moving survey into phase 2 rather than phase 1.
Yeah, and I guess supplemental for a comment on that is for me is I want to know who our people are again. Like COVID really eroded that, and I want to know who's here and what they want. Like I heard a lot during the election cycle, and I want to be able to see the data on that as opposed to just anecdotal of what I heard in questions. So for example, things like how long have you lived here? I think finding our demographics on who's new to the community, finding out what is important to them. So if they're a long-term community member, are they valuing things that are different from a new community member? In order for a community to grow together, we have to come together on shared values. And I think that that's been the strength of having a survey. And just finding out, even our census that we saw the average age of our older population a little bit less than what our previous census was. And I only share all this kind of data stuff is because it drives the objectives and those paramount. And we developed the strategic plan off of that. So that's why I'm keen for December. But I see Councillor Herring.
Councillor Herring, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm right with you on the need for data, and I think we can get really good information. I'm not as big of a fan of the information we got last time because I think we got a little sliver of information, and I'd really like to give some more thought as to what we could expand that survey to include and what information, because I think, for example, when we did the housing needs assessment,
For sure.
it poked into some things, and it was very frustrating to have them glaze over the surface of things like short-term rentals and all of that stuff that I think we could get some good data on from a community survey. So I think December is just not realistic for us to find the information that we need to be asking the public. So I really like the idea of doing that in that March to August period and giving us some time to really flush out what we want to ask the public. And then, like you said, I think really giving the public that first step of here's what we do is going to really narrow the focus of our results and give us more to work with. So.
That's a deeper question. Go ahead, Counselor Sim.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but I think that maybe what we could do is we could bring back copies of that 2021 survey to the December meeting, because in it, that's where we learned the difference of the fact that I think it was in 2019, we had 45% of the population was like, yeah, I'm keen on rental housing. And then in 2021, we saw that go up significantly to like 61%. So there was a lot of incremental data that actually helped drive the strategic plan. When we go to our strategic plan, which is guiding our budget principles, they do marry. I think we need to take a peek at that because it's something better than nothing. And that March to August, we need to be done and dusted for our financial planning by May. But no, it's the way we have to do things. Like, Ms. Klassen?
Do you want- Go ahead.
Yes, we have to have a draft, a financial plan in place by May 15th. However, there's two separate things happening. There's long-term financial plan where we debated this. We recommend using the data and the survey results of that to formulate the 10 and 5-year plan that we have to deal with next year by May 15th. Capture that in the phase one.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just so that everybody, we're all on the same page what we're talking about. I just haven't. Anything.
Okay, so someone like to move the,
Okay. I just have to ask,
Okay,
what do we
go.
engage on then in December? I just want to clarify what that looks like.
So in December, whatever that might look like, how the public forward, special projects. February.
Okay, and I guess for me, I'm just looking for that opportunity where we reflect what we heard over this past election cycle, and we all stood up and we said things like recruitment and retention were really important. We talked about the housing and all of that. But if we're not capturing that, I don't know how to budget for it because I'm not seeing it. And although we could have the anecdotal from 2021, a lot has happened since then. And I just, even if we just regurgitate it, it's going to help me personally guide that financial process and those projects and identifying what's important. The other thing that we heard that was really important to people was our roads management, and do we need to put more into it? I'm uncomfortable, going to the public and saying, here's what we think without asking, what do you think first? It's, to me, it's a community rebuild for me.
Bill? Or
Yeah,
Counselor Barron, sorry.
I just think that those two public meetings, that's what that is, right? We're still going to be having those public meetings. I just think the survey, my worry is if we pump out a survey really quickly, we're going to miss questions that we should have got on there. And then we're going to have two surveys and we're going to get less engagement, I think. Whereas I think if we were to stick to these meetings the same way we always kind of publicize the budget, right? Having the public input through that. And then the survey is used as a tool more for that long-term strategic piece.
Councillor Sim?
My final comment, because I don't want to belabor this longer than I have, except that my vision of input isn't presenting what we're going to do and what do you think. I'm favoring what do you want to hear? And unless there's a different way that's an easier way to capture it, whether it be simply what's important to you and it's just a simple question, but to start a new cycle for council, I want to hear from our public before I say, do you like the steak and eggs? How's your dinner?
And I'll add to that by saying that I think the meeting, the public meeting that we'll have in December with the information and comments that we'll get from the public will help make that survey more meaty.
Yeah, I tend to go with Council Herring. To me, the first phase kind of strikes me a little bit like a social media campaign. And you're sparking interest and getting some conversation started. And I think you'll be able to get a theme from that. And then going into the second one, I think it could be more targeted. You could come away with some ideas and some themes and narrowing it down and says, this is what we're hearing informally or at these meetings. And we can take it now and really develop a full-fledged targeted survey.
To the academic officer, where's the data? Where are we at with that? Some of that could be used to inform.
For sure. I have actually had a meeting with the Economic Development Officer today. We did talk briefly about the results of that, and I have asked her to prepare a report that comes back to council. So I don't have any additional information I can offer at this point about the exact response.
I was thinking, because we did a survey in a sense.
So what I'm hearing is that in December, we will have a way to capture public input and assess any other thoughts. That's to me is the most important. Anything else that you want to add? To me, it's important that we have, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Okay, so someone would like to make a recommendation. So page 171.
I'll move the recommendation,
Which one?
option 1.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Moving on to 18.4, the 2023 financial plan schedule amendment. Ms. Clausen?
With the financial plan adjustment on the document different, one with highlighted stripes, the other. And right, Councillor Smith, so just work backward and is the new one.
Yes, thank you. Any questions to staff? Go ahead, Councillor.
So I just want to make sure because the November 22nd, maybe I've missed that one, but that seems new to me. So I'm just trying to get the timing on that for a budget workshop.
Yes, it is new.
Yeah.
Because we needed a budget workshop.
Yeah.
There. If we need to change that date.
No, there's just no time or anything. So I just need some clarity.
November 22nd is 2022 is next Tuesday, sorry. The challenge with this year is because of the election. A lot of these seeking direction issue from or items from council would have occurred with assuming there's no election, with council in October. It would have been difficult for us to get direction from the previous term of council, go ahead, make decisions based on those directions, have an election take place, a new council sworn in and then have to undo all of that if it's different and follow a new set of direction. So the decision internally was made to focus on getting council through the election process, getting the new council onboarded, and then amend the existing schedule to get the direction. Where does the council want to go forward? The 2023 to 26 or 7 budget. As for November 22nd, if council does not have opportunity to meet then, certainly choose that.
I think it was just the time.
Is there a time?
There's no time listed.
Time of day? How long do we need? All day.
All day.
The afternoon would be better. Yeah. Great idea, Bill.
We're just checking the corporate schedule and then confirm that.
I mean, you can follow up by email. We don't have to debate that now.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's
That, like, why can we just move on? I'm just
Yeah.
noting on the schedule if we're gonna pass
Right.
it, what, can we attend?
We may have to change
Just a
it.
question.
So there's a recommendation that the Government Operations Committee recommend to council that council approve the amended 2023 financial plan schedule as attached.
So moved.
Councillor Matheson, second. All, any further questions? Discussions?
Is it important at this point in time that we incorporate into the second open houses or anything? Or is this, we can add those? So I've got,
December 13th,
yeah,
and the following one is February 14th.
Ooh, that's a bad one.
yeah, see?
Valentine's Day. I mean, if we're handing out free chocolate, we're gonna get lots of people.
There
and
you
maybe,
go.
You know, bidders, but maybe we think about that one.
It is Tuesday.
Of course, it's a council.
It's
Maybe we have to look at the schedule.
Councillor Sim?
However, despite the fact that, I think it would be riveting, and I know Wayne is super keen to come out to the budget date night. But I don't know if we need to have another spring one in there. Like last year, it took us a little bit of time. I can't see it taking us any less time because we've got some more work to do. Do we need one more presentation to the public, or is that generally enough? I mean, I've just heard that our survey is going to be from March to August. So, I just feeling it out here.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
February 21st.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm sure that this can be.
Can we adopt this as a preliminary or a draft?
Or at least understanding that it can be changed.
Or we table?
Other than the fact that we would have. So that November 22nd.
We've got a mover and a seconder, so
No, I think we just moved. I don't know if we got a
yeah,
seconder.
yeah, Councillor Matheson did.
Okay, well, I'm going to vote against this because I want to see it refined. I'm not comfortable with what it was.
Vote in favor.
Yeah, Can we just add a friendly amendment to this saying something about being able to amend it? I don't know.
Friendly amendment to the motion that we can amend it to date as correct. Clarify some of the potential needs.
Are you okay with that, Councilor Matheson? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Would you like that recognized, Councilor Sim?
Just for fun.
Just for fun, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Carried.
Can council clarify the changes they want staff to go back and revise, please? So
Oh.
the November
November
22nd
22nd, we
meeting.
need a time.
to confirm the time,
And anything other than development.
those are the only changes council are requiring?
And the possibility of another public consultation
Absolutely.
between February 21st and March 21st, right?
For me, I'd like to see a third one, and I know it's unusual, and I know we've only had 2 people show up, and I promise I'll be the third this year. But I really feel that this budget's going to be important. I think that we've got a recession. I think we've got interest rates. I think we've got lots, and I think we've got to set a big year plan. And I'd like to have at least one other. And if it falls flat, I will bring cookies and cake. So at least we'll be fed. But I would like to see a third.
Go ahead.
So that is just
Yeah.
engaging.
It is and it isn't because I did do the friendly amendment.
Yeah, okay.
You just asked what council wanted. I just shared my opinion. Not that anybody votes in favor of it, so it's fine.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, it's
Passed.
passed.
So it's passed.
Carried
Thomas asking for clarification
Yeah.
on.
on what we wanted to amend.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's a recommendation that council rise from the committee of the whole meeting. Seconder?
Second that.
All those in favor? Blackwell, it's back to you.
Thank you for the excellent work, Councillor.
I have a question.
Sorry?
My question is because we've just come from committee of the whole that we're going to see this in a motion on the December 6th. So that's where we can tidy up the language for,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Correspondence, there are no response required items. Wish to speak to any of the items in the next section, wave your hands frantically so that I can notice you. North Thompson Arts Council. I note that my uncle John Revel, who is a gallery at Littleport now, is on that council, which is kind of fun. Simp Council also noted that I added Lyle McKenzie as a elected councillor on the letter there. And since these folks are your friends, I mean, you can take that however you like. Response letter, Katrine Conroy, Minister of Forest, from our UBCM meeting. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Other than this letter, it was put to them. I'm going to have another crack at the can through UBCM. Flights are from Wildfire to discuss the cruise not being stationed in Clearwater. Strongly suggested he goes through his Congress. So yes, there will be another opportunity there inside of the district. Adoption of Awareness Month. Tourism Wells Gray minutes. Building permits issued. Okay. No notices of motion. Comments from the and questions from the public. Get a microphone so that we can walk around. We'll get you the podium because we might as well make you completely awkward and comfortable.
Good?
Yes.
Good.
Fire away.
Concerning the recent job posting.
Yep.
Forgive me, climate coordinator, there's something else, officer, something in there.
Yeah.
Who previously took care of all of those roles? Because it's quite lengthy.
It is, you're gonna actually have to, on staff issues like that, you'll have to actually consult Mr. Thomas privately. We generally, we don't hire people, Mr. Thomas hires people.
Okay.
But a lot of those jobs evolve. I will say this, climate action items are one of the things that can most easily get grants for right now. So it is a place where we can actually put some work and some energy and bring extra funds into the Clearwater to do good work. But yes, for the job, the scope of it, you'll actually have to talk to Mr. Thomas.
Can I do that now or not?
We actually have a meeting after this meeting.
Yep.
So yeah, you can touch base with them through the office, 2257, just call it.
Okay, well, one other suggestion for the budget, the phase one, the phase two. I've been in contact with some of the high school kids. They come out and help us do various things to earn some money. I would strongly suggest maybe having one of the meetings at their pit.
We love the idea. I think we've actually discussed having a council meeting at the pit, which may be another way to do it. TNRD board has an out-of-town meeting once a year. Doing one at the high school. I think we did one.
Yeah,
in the
we did.
past.
We've actually done it during local government week in May, and then it stopped during COVID, but it's certainly something to regroup on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really,
With enough early planning, we can do that. But yes, having an actual meeting at the school. It's nerve-wracking because the kids are really hard on us. Any further comments from the public or questions from the public? Okay, yeah, no, touch base with Mr. Thomas. There are nothing further. Thank you. We do have the need to move to Canada, that the meeting be closed. Public section 91. Discuss matters relating. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor. We will take a 10-minute adjournment.